Hello and welcome to today's Ecomm Inside Track, talking all about shop talk. Now, for those that are tuned in before, you'll be familiar with today's guest. But without further ado, I would love to introduce you to Ali from the Retail Podcast. Ali, before I start, perhaps you could just give people an initial overview of yourself and your journey, and then we'll get straight into what's going down at Shop Talk for all those like me that are stuck here in the UK and not able to get to Vegas this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. Hello, quickfire community. I think the most engaged e-com digital Shopify community that I've seen. I absolutely love what you're doing, Nathan. I think you're rocking it, and I love your community. I think they're absolutely they turn up, they want to learn, and what better community to be a part of. So thank you for allowing me to talk. I'm a corporate dude. I've been a corporate dude for 33 years. Towards the end of my career, I was the head of retail for Verizon, American Telecom, looking at professional services and their retail vertical. The notable things is, for example, building Amazon Go for Tesco's in Gerrards Cross in 2013. Where you got micro location, retail media, loads of different elements that really sort of woke me up to what the possibilities are. But more importantly, what I learned with that is it doesn't matter what technology can do. If the customer and the business aren't ready to receive, then they're not gonna make the most of it. And then my final sort of corporate gig was I was head of retail for Microsoft in the UK. You name a retailer, I've pretty much worked with them on one project or another. And my final project at Microsoft was Asda. So a lot of grocery, Pandora, H&M, loads of different areas. So, and then 2-3 years ago, because I was frustrated with not being able to have more of a non-corporate voice, I set up the podcast, I set up the news platform, and it's gone from strength to strength. I was underneath a non-compete for a long time. And once that finished, I had my first 2 customers that have sort of put jet fuel and enabled this year. This year, I've been to NRF, Eurosys in Dusseldorf, Retail Week last week in London, here at Shop Talk this week, off to World Retail Congress next week, then Shop Talk, blah, 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 and NRF Asia, and then Paris Retail Week. So what I'm doing now is just going to continue to grow. And Shop Talk, if you've not been Las Vegas, I've tried to not make it as much, about me being at a really cool event than the content from the event. I'm really conscious about people saying, wouldn't it be great? So how about we get straight into it? I'm conscious.
Yeah, I'll dive in, Ali, and I've got the presentation. And just as a heads up for everyone, what I've just asked Ali to do is say, look, I appreciate you're live, you're there right now. So for goodness sake, don't worry about it looking pretty, etc. I just want to know, hot off the press, what's going down, what are the key learnings, the key takeaways, what's inspiring you, and what can hopefully help educate our audience. So over to you, my friend.
Perfect. So for those Las Vegas who come here often, this is my first time to the place, and I haven't left this hotel. And as soon as we finish this, I'm going to go back down to the conference. Started on Sunday, and it's at the MGM, which is super cool. In terms of the types of brands, there's a real good mix of retailers, marketplaces, technology vendors, obviously Shopify here. Shopify are all retail events.
Right.
Shopify partners are here as well. And then in terms of the mix of the types of roles, one of the things that Shop Talk prides itself is the level of executives that come along in the C-suite. So it's a really cool thing. For me, what I love, and when I say this, is like I cringe because I know no one follows me. So if I was about to say, if you follow me
for all TikTok, the millions that follow,
for my mum and my dad and my family who follow me on TikTok, you would have seen that I posted this yesterday, and the ambience, the noise, the buzz. There are 1,600 tables that are there for speed dating with people that you want to either sell to, work with, promote to. It's a unique opportunity. It happens throughout like 3 hours of the day across Monday, Tuesday. So I had like back-to-back meetings with people wanting to be on the podcast, do partnerships, and I just love it. It's got this really fantastic buzz, which is very unique to this event, as opposed to, for example, NRF in New York. The one thing that I've noticed, TikTok are going hell for leather at every single conference. They've not only, again, TikTok are here, they've got a nice merch shop, they're giving out their merch, and they are also presenting, because retailers are looking at retail media. They're looking at their channels and understanding, you know, social and short form video is my growth engine. How do I become a part of that? Now, this is for you lucky people from the UK. This is all stats from the TikTok UK presentation that I went, that was echoed here. 32 monthly million users. So it's a great advertising channel to bring your funnel back to your Shopify site. Interestingly enough, TikTok is very relevant and growing with people over 35. So this whole, it's just young kids doing dancing, absolutely not. And 61% of users who have said that brands and services that use TikTok for UGC have 61% of shoppers have been influenced by some form of UGC on the platform. And interesting enough, you know, Meta was here. And every time they would interview a millennial or a Gen Z, the Gen Z would go, yeah, but, you know, when you're on TikTok, and you could see the Meta folks like blushing.
Yeah.
No one goes to Facebook, right? I mean, in the US, it's a little bit different, but it was just funny. Meta's trying to recover, and if they, you know, ban TikTok in
Really
the
interesting
US.
on that though, Ali, because when I'm speaking to brands over here in the UK, one of the conversations that's always coming up is TikTok Shop and the growth of TikTok as a channel and how
Yeah,
more brands can embrace it. So I'm really interested to see that correlates with actually the noise and the splash they're making. At
absolutely. 100%.
that level, certainly looks like TikTok Shop is one, and TikTok itself is one to earmark and certainly get following.
Yeah, and short form video. I mean, in the US, cord cutting is expediting, right? People are not watching traditional TV. I spoke to the US largest jewelry seller through TV, and he's going, "Look, I'm hemorrhaging. I forget what his numbers are," and he's looking at how do I transition, and I guess that's where people need people like yourself, experts in the field, to help them transition to a digital sort of media. Target is the equivalent of, I don't know what the equivalent in the US, like a John Lewis stroke Waitrose experience, but, you know, Tesco type pricing. So it's everyday quality, big box. So they general merchandise. They sell clothes, they sell groceries, they sell toys, they sell garden furniture, they sell absolutely everything. And the reason why I focus on them, if you were to go to Amazon executives and say, who are you most scared of? It wouldn't be Walmart, who is the largest by scale, size, and money. It would be Target. And that's because Target has been really effective at both digital and physical. And unlike Walmart, they're currently not selling their technology. But Walmart is now, and at the expo, they have 2 stands selling technology to retailers. But what's interesting, what was their talk about? Basically, loyalty was another theme within the conference of how do I build how do I build away from traditional, you know, collecting points, loyalty cards, this sort of transactional loyalty base. And what they've done is they've split their loyalty program into 3 areas, 3 different pricing options, and 3 service grades. So you can have your basic, just give me vouchers and discounts, or give me shipped, which is their, you know, fast commerce. Give me the product within 30 minutes. And and they're launching 3 different price ranges. And considering they are 95%, sorry, they cover 95% of the US, or they're 5 miles away from 95% of the US. That's 230 million shoppers that will have access to this loyalty program. And, you know, they have a massive data team. But anyway, really interesting on what they're doing in that space. Now, for those folks who love Barbie, or you've got kids at home who love Barbie, or as Mattel has now said, if you love Hot Wheels, if you love I can't remember the toy's name, Polly something, or the 8 Ball, Mattel as a brand has understood for their taking the Marvel type model to the next level, they need to think about the survival of their brand from cross pollination into other categories. Obviously, Barbie has been the biggest success for them, Oscars, Golden Globes, but really interesting. Ken's jumper, for example, was the fastest selling digital existing product that started on the movie in a digital sphere that ended up in the physical. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah,
Digital to
yeah,
physical.
digital to
It
physical.
was the fastest and best selling product from the movie Ken's jumper, and that was created by Mattel's like digital product team. So I thought that was again super interesting how digital products through obviously if you have a platform like a Hollywood blockbuster, that conversion into sales is really interesting. They're producing 14 new movies, and I'm sure some of them will be cinema only, some of them will be platforms. But you know, Hot Wheels, all of their brands, there are going to be there's going to be a movie about that, which means you know Gen Alpha, who I will talk about in a while, will now grow up with this new world, like we did with Star Wars or the Avengers. There's going to be a new generation, and part of my retail safari when I was in New York, I focused in on toys and experiences young Gen Alpha folks are getting because they are your future customer. So Mattel, you know, really talking about, I think I've got a slide. Yeah, broaden the business model, looking at industry leadership within the areas that they work in, looking at strategic expansion, obviously into films. Content is key, right? You know this, your marketers, your e-commerce experts, your digital agents, but content is key. So even for Mattel, right? Even for these massive billion-dollar organizations, content is key. And looking how to embrace digital and social media are the things that are keeping them awake and things that they need to focus on. And they didn't confirm it, but they will be going into theme parks and other areas, which was like brilliant. Macy's has been struggling, and for anyone who's been to a Macy's, you know, you would have. Again, this is your traditional department store like Debenhams that you would be expecting to go out of business very soon. However, their new CEO was incredibly bullish. She said, "We're going to shut 130 stores, but we're going to open another 70." And the reason they're pivoting, they're still going to remain a department store, but they acknowledge that shoppers want experiences that are relevant to them within their local communities. So I think having this one size fits all, which is what retail has grown up on, through data and data analytics, he understands that he can't rely on that model for him to be successful, but incredibly bullish about how his transformation, a bit like M&S in the UK, who now their resurgence and having a darling moment, but they went through they went through the gutter, they were delisted, very similar to Macy's. So again, traditional brands understanding that they need to pivot, reformatting their stores, re-energizing their digital presence. I think they've got a long way to go digitally. To be digitally relevant, but they're going to try and do it for new partnerships with brands, very similar to what Selfridges does in London. Let's see if there's anything I've missed out there.
I mean, while you're looking at that, Ali, I'm really interested to see Macy's go on that transformation, and I wonder for those there how many were looking at Macy's and that's the inspiration they need to go on that similar journey, because it's like there's so many brands that seem to be toiling and struggling and stuck in an age that's gone, and now actually maybe Macy's is that gentle kick up the arse they need to be like, actually this is the future and it is possible, and like we've seen with M&S, it is absolutely possible. I saw they made the first profitability or profit in some time
Yeah,
in the last couple of weeks, which is awesome.
yeah, and I think this isn't in a vacuum, i.e., re-merchandising your store or creating better physical experience is only one part. The digital element has to be, and that's why again here you're seeing all of the elements around digital and physical coming together to provide these new modern experiences, which is very key. Now, one of the talks that I really loved, because I'm a bit of a geek nerd, was two university lectures from Kellogg's University, which is a massive MBA, and I forget the other one, which is where this is from. And basically, this focus was about meet your future workforce, which isn't going to be, in the US, your white non-Hispanic um, demographic. It is a new demographic, and it's not going to be white, and that's on there. That's hopefully not being yeah, anyway, hopefully that's appropriate language for that. And so there, the future workforce over the next 10 years is changing. So business leaders have to think about how relevant they are to Gen Alpha. And what I loved about Gen Alpha, apart from being the first generation that have been completely digitally enabled and documented through the birth and all elements of their lives, is when you look at the future jobs that they're going to do, something like 65% of the jobs that they're going to do not exist today. I thought that was, super interesting.
65%.
Yeah, 65% of jobs that alphas are going to do not exist today. And then sustainable, if you like, brands with purpose. That's what this new generation is all about. They want authenticity. They don't necessarily care about this sort of, I'm sure I would make a horrible Gen Alphas, because I was all about the money, right? 80s kid, we've grown up to show me the money. Where these guys is show me the value, show me what you stand for, show me what this is all about having higher emotional intelligence. And not only are they the workforce of the future, but they're the future consumer. So for brands to be relevant to this generation, it's a 5-year journey of transformation, but I thought it was super interesting. Obviously, I've not covered all the areas because of time, but it was, again, really made me sort of sit up and listen to what they're saying that we should prepare for. Oh yeah, and there you go. So the cultural and social shifts is what we're seeing, and I think when you look at the UK, we're going through this cultural and social shifts, whether we like it or not, whatever our politics may say. We can see that the younger generation is worlds away from the generation that's making the decisions right now. And I think that this is important. And then in terms of strategies to prepare for that, you can see it's like not work-life balance, which was interesting, life-work balance, right? And again, I'm sat there going, think about that from a consumption perspective, a consumerism. What does that mean to the future shopper? And D&I, which in the UK we have championed, and some workplaces are very inclusive. So I think we're ahead of the curve. But compared to the US, they're waking up and they understand that they need to change, and they need to amplify employee and empower them. And technology can be a part of that as well. So this is Foot Locker, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, Foot Locker key lessons. I think, again, Foot Locker for me, compared to JD Sports or Sports Direct or Foot Asylum in the UK, I feel has been struggling for a bit. The chief commercial officer sort of came out and he went through loads of examples of things that they were doing in store that they thought were good, but when they started to listen to their employees, they understood that they were actually disempowering the stores. So employee empowerment is really important. Transparency in the way that they communications and what they do, and enabling. About 4 years ago, so one of the biggest things that retailers should do is enable their workforce to be TikTokers, right? Treat all of your workforce in the stores as influencers, because they know your brand better than everyone. They spend day in, day out, and again, they are more likely to join your company because of their values. And he sort of acknowledged all of that they need to empower their store associates to be able to represent the brand better, look at how they do drops, not do too many drops. So if they're bringing out new Nike Air Force Ones, look at how they can stagger them. And at the heart of that is data, right? actually reading the data, looking at the conversions that they're getting, looking at the way, and they've been very poor at doing digital, and I think that's why they've suffered. But now they're refocusing on that element from a digital perspective. So again, no surprise, they're going to focus on loyalty. Look at the loyalty program. It's app driven. And so again, I think digital native brands are lucky because they are community led. One of the brands who I've not talked about created cream for tattoos, and again, started at home during university and now is in every tattoo parlor up and down the US. And he creates, as I said, it's not gelatin, because he said that's the worst thing for a tattoo. But there, that it was a classic example of a digital brand goes into physical, understands his community, using UGC content, and not trying to tell the UGC or the content creators follow this script, follow this narrative, but allowing them to have that freedom of creation. And Foot Locker was almost saying the same. Obviously, worlds apart in terms of big, massive corporate retailer, startup at home, and now D2C. But the messaging was almost identical from
Well,
both those
just
talks.
on that,
So
Ali, I really like the loyalty piece. And again, I guess looking at the social media strategy, I could have imagined that that would be a key message coming out of Shop Talk is TikTok Shop and where we're going with that, etc. I love the shift of the focus on culture and people, and that's really refreshing. But actually, this loyalty piece, it just kind of twigged to me that the last couple of 5 or 6 brands I've been talking to have all been saying loyalty's been on all of their roadmaps and enhancing loyalty, etc. And that's really refreshing to actually see, big or small, loyalty does seem a kind of key pillar in the next 6 to 12 months. And so I guess the likes of the loyalty lines, the Yotpos, the influence IOs, etc., must be licking their lips and going, actually, we're about to see a huge influx of brands onboarding loyalty solutions. And I guess the challenge to the audience and the people listening is, how can you differentiate your loyalty program? And I guess a common concern is we don't just want to discount and erode margins, etc., which are
and
already
that's the
right.
worst thing to do. I
Yeah,
remember one of the speakers when she was talking about how discounting unnecessarily for people who are going to convert is, and I forget the numbers that she had, was just and I was like sat thinking, yeah, you're absolutely. I hated hearing that as a consumer, because
yeah.
I do want that offer. But she was saying retailers are just throwing money away to people who are going to convert. So unless you know through data the propensity of who's going to convert on your website, you are throwing that money away. And that's where, as you said, and gamification is, I think I've got a slide on gamification and my top 5 digital e-commerce sort of takeaways.
That would
And
be
there is one more talk
go
later
on.
today that is, again, e-commerce, digital experiences of the future. So
I'm
yeah,
just interested in that loyalty piece. Finally, on that is just like you say, the amount of brands that give away the 10% pop up as soon as you land, and their road margin. Like this person's been driven from paid social or somewhere. They're coming in probably with the intention to buy. Like, I
yeah.
understand an on exit pop up, or as soon I've seen a great tool called RevLifter where you used to highlight if you highlighted the text to then go and put it into Google to say go and find me an alternative, that's when it would spring your pop up and try and keep them there. But those intent-based pop-ups and discounts or promos, rather than just blanketed, are almost a non-negotiable these days. I see too many brands just giving it away, and I'm wondering why their margins are pitiful.
Yeah, and the numbers when the presenter was talking was like quite impressive. And I think there's another element that sort of ties into this. Cookies have disappeared, right? So you no longer have cookies to track your customers. And one of the things, terms that I used was community commerce about 5, 6 years ago. If we know that a lot of your customers have communities, how is that community converting? And how are you keeping them interested in the brand? And it's not all going to be short form video. Some of them are going to be dopamine based. Some of them are going to be like delight on point of conversion. I think if I don't cover it, I want to say it now. The other main message that anyone who sells cars, they've experienced this since the dawn of time. If you're buying a car, I think people traditionally research 7 hours before they buy the car online, and there's like 12 to 24 touch points. the number of presentations I was in that all acknowledged that the digital touch points to convert, right? Not to upsell, to convert to sale in your funnel is somewhere between 12 and 30. 30 was the highest number I heard, and 12 was the lowest. But again, for me, that's like, oh, finally, people get what I've been saying for so long. When you look at the automotive trade, they've had to think about, how am I going to get influence at those touch points, those digital touch points? Again, I thought super interesting.
Yeah.
A
And
bit
there we
of
go.
a bit
Yeah.
of marketing genius here. This orange jacket was a technology vendor who I work with. They do Apple iOS POS till. So they're the only people that do a full Apple experience, but for checkout in physical stores. And so their chief commercial officer was like, I'm going to be at a party, and every single one of my customers is going to have seen my jacket because I was at a prominent place, but not all of them will convert. How do I get my brand on stage with Ludacris, right? And that's Ludacris jumping up and down and entertaining the staff last night. He managed to get his jacket, his clothing, his merch on Ludacris's co-rapper, and he wore it for the first 4 songs. And I thought that was just marketing genius, right? When we know that there's so many digital touch points that you need to convert your customers, getting your brand in front of them in nuanced ways, I thought was a cracking example of this new world. So key takeaways. Is there any? Yeah, this is the last slide. So I'm not going to read them all. They're all my key digital and e-commerce takeaways. I think using AI to digitize products to then be able to A/B testing. I saw lots of companies who either do CGI or use or augmented reality or do 3D scans. But there's again another sort of quiet industry growing, trying to take the cost out of merchandising online. You know, how people have to take photos of their products. And obviously AI does that right now. AI was a theme here, but what they didn't do compared to other events, they didn't oversell it. And the reality, you didn't sell it because a lot of people are confusing what AI is and what it can do. But anyway, so I think and I haven't even mentioned AI until this point. I don't want to say that it's not here and it can't do things, but being realistic and what it can do. And I think even ChatGPT said that. Be realistic on what AI is going to do for your business right now, today. And so using that for merchandising, inventory, stock analysis, all of that stuff, 100%.
Really like that point as one of our final points, Ali, around actually AI isn't the silver bullet golden solution that's just going to change everything as of tomorrow. It's going to help and contribute, certainly, and it's going to
Correct.
be prompting and supporting and a great co-pilot. But at the same time, AI alone is not going to transform your retail or digital fortunes. And I think the more people that understand that message, the better. Okay, interesting. Ali, as always, I'm so grateful for you jumping out mid-conference to come and share with us the kind of the very latest. It's so awesome to have that opportunity to share that with our community. I guess the final takeaway from you, well, two things. One is, of everything you've seen, of all the people you've heard, what was the one that really blew you away? Was it one that you've already mentioned? Was it a different one? What was the one thing that you thought, I didn't see that coming, and I'm so glad I was there to see it?
I think Gen Alpha coming into its own age as a consumer group, for any, planners, and I'm one of those folks. I love that Gen Alpha is now part of the conversation. And even at Retail Week last week in London, which is a totally different type of experience, second day of that event was dedicated to young, people in their 25s, right? Basically, this new cohort of influencer, content creator, they had LGBTQ plus content creators talking about how, makeup and all. So one thing that I really loved was the fact that there is that focus now on this new. Because why is that important? That's the fuel of change. Your future consumer experiences. things that validated my thinking. Everyone talking about short form video, you know, how they get those I mean, people call it omni-channel, multi-channel, multi-commerce, unified commerce, whatever the buzzword is. There's a bunch of channels out there that people are struggling with. How they convert during that through the digital touch points was, again, interesting. That sort of validated my thinking. And then this yeah, I think all the point, I'll be regurgitating all the things I've
Yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah.
They're the key things for me that I'll be taking away and putting into a report. Some of this stuff I've already put on LinkedIn. It's on retailnews.ai, which is the news portal. So, and I'll be releasing that as, you know, as the content is created and it gets out. But I did, some folks, especially in Europe, will say, well, hang on a minute, what about sustainability? I mean, Lush has an augmented reality experience that wants you to reduce plastic, right? So they're all about creating new products. I didn't talk about this because that was from thing, but I love what Lush is doing in taking augmented reality to reduce plastic. That was something that sort of stuck with me. The app has been downloaded 2 million times. It started in Asia. It's now being used across the world. So there's these sort of new things that are coming in that have been based on, you know, traditional technologies. We've all known about augmented reality. And obviously I saw the Apple Vision that was in the expo hall, but no retailer really spoke about that. But it's here and it's sort of gathering momentum. And I'll finish on this because I think for your audience, when I was at Microsoft, everyone would say metaverse this, metaverse that, HoloLens this. And I would say, you know, metaverse is such a distracting term. There will be digital planes for every single retailer in this world. How are retailers going to own and dominate those digital planes? Whether that's metaverse, i.e., a digital verse, and then you look at it as that, an experience, it then lends itself to how, you know, digital touch points, augmented reality, all these other things. But I think, you know, for me, that's still going to come, and that's the things when you look to the future, people can get ready for. I'm not talking about Roblox. I'm not talking about Fortnite, about creating these ugly characters. I'm saying that e-commerce, due to the growth, you know, it's at 23%. It's going to go to 30%. It's going to go from billions to trillions. That growth is there. Physical is going to shrink and become more relevant. What does the digital plane for brands look like in the future? And I think I'll leave it on that.
Ali, what a note to end. I appreciate you mentioned about where to find out more about you, but I can't encourage you guys enough listening to follow Ali on LinkedIn, go and see his website, Retail News AI, check out the Retail Pod. He's doing some awesome stuff. Ali, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on as always, my
Thanks.
friend. Safe
Appreciate it.
travels, enjoy Vegas, get stuck
See
in, and
you
I
in
look forward to hearing
Paris.
all about it. See you there. Thanks, Ali.
Bye. Bye.